So before we dive in with our awesome guest today, Jose Bolaños, I want to dive in a bit, like we always do for people who are new, what the Roofing Success Series is, why I built it, and then how to get the most out of it. And so I've been in the roofing industry for the past 6 years now. We started August 19th of 2019. And in that time, I have roofing companies come to me every single day saying, "Hey, George, we need more leads. We need more leads. We need more leads." And for some of them, that is completely true. They do need more leads. But in a lot of cases, what I found is that so many roofing contractors have been sold this dream of, "Hey, if you just get more leads, your business is going to succeed." Um, and that's unfortunately not true, right? It would be very good for me if it was. But it's not, right? There's things outside of that. There's sales, there's operations, right? There's tax strategy, there's make sure that you're actually like financial operations that need to be in place and a lot of other things in between leads and success that need to happen. And so that's why I started the Beyond Leads Roofing Success series to kind of bring in experts in their field, wherever it may be. What I'm super excited about today is Jose. I don't want to spoil it, but I'm so ready to spoil it. um, who's going to be talking a lot about the internal works that help create the external works, if I were to kind of summarize it. But before we dive into that, guys, housekeeping rules as usual. It's turning into winter here in Baltimore, so don't mind the jacket, but I was freezing my butt off up here. Jose, you're in Nicaragua right now, right?
It's
Jose's
a little hot
enjoying
here.
that
It's a little
beautiful
tropical.
tropical weather. Yeah. We can trade anytime. We can trade. Let me know. But
No, thank you.
no, okay, that's a fair response. But
Uh,
few
I don't
housekeeping
do good
rules.
with the cold.
No, you would hate Baltimore then. But no,
My daughter is in Gettysburg, so I think that's pretty close. So
oh,
she's for the
Virginia.
first time going to be in the cold. Yes, she's first freshman in college, first time in the cold.
It is Virginia is really beautiful compared to Maryland, in my opinion. Like there's a lot more like open area, so she should
Mhm.
enjoy it. But the cold will definitely be brutal if it's their first time.
She's already complaining about it. So
Oh, this isn't even bad. We're at like 50s and 60s right now.
yeah,
But alrighty. Anyway, before we dive into all the magical stuff you have to share today, I'm super excited about it. I've been pumped up about this for like the past 2 weeks. Want to do some housekeeping rules just for everybody. As always, we do the George's phone break test, but I want to make sure that you guys get the most out of the series. We do this once a week, most of the time for about an hour a week. And in this, I bring in experts that I believe are able to share insights that will help you guys get better results in your business and in your life. So all I ask in return is to take this seriously and invest in yourself today. So take the next hour. Anything you have up on your desk distracting you, like your phone, throw that away. If you're on your couch, throw that away. If you have Netflix up, it hit the floor. We'll see if that cracked there. There we go. Jose's got it too. Close out of all your other windows that can be distracting. I know it's very tempting to feel like, hey, everything's a fire and it needs to be addressed immediately in our business. It's not. It'll be fine. Likely. Don't quote me on that. But take some time today, just focus in and just get prepared to learn something new. And at the end of this call, we will have an open section for Q&A. So any questions you have, any struggles you're having in your business, you can even ask it anonymously, right? There's a way to do that within Zoom in the chat. You can just do anonymous, ask your questions anonymously there. That's completely fine if that's what you're comfortable with. But just queue up those questions because I'm sure you'll be able to learn something new and get some answers to the questions you may have. Um, Quite a mouthful now for the I gotta memorize at this point. We're 8 months into the Roofing Success Series. We launched it February 19th of why does everything happen on the 19th? February 19th of 2025. So
nice.
anyway, with that being said, guys, I'm incredibly excited to introduce you to today's guest speaker, Jose Bolaños, who has quite an interesting way of tackling the internal battles as business owners, right? As business owners, we're doing a lot. We're stressed. We have a lot coming at us every single day. And he has a very unique way of attacking that, right? And eliminating those root causes of burnouts, like learning how to handle stress so that you're not yelling at your spouse or making poor decisions based on emotions, right? There's a lot of cool stuff we're going to be talking about today. But I don't want to spoil too much. So you ready to dive in, Jose?
Righty, man. Let's go.
Alrighty. So I imagine as a human being, you weren't born as some enlightened person with all the answers, right? And I'm sure you're still working towards that today. But before
Yes.
diving into kind of this, like getting deep into mindset with entrepreneurs and business owners, what is it that you did before that?
So I was, I'm a philosopher at heart. Um, if you looked at all the books that I have here on my table, it's mostly philosophy. But I think I have to start where decided to sober up when I was 22. I think that's truly the where I started. Before that, I wasn't doing much more than having fun and trying to figure life out. I wasn't really like at a job or anything like that. I was trying to figure it out for myself and found out quickly that uh, consuming alcohol or anything else was adding no value to my life. I had a great mentor at that time, and I went into one of these 12-step programs. And I'll keep it short. My sponsor in the 12-step program was my dad's brother, and he owned the Leadership Center. And when I started going to the 12-step program, I decided to ask my uncle for a job, and I went to work at the Leadership Center. And not only was I going through the 12-step program, now I was learning leadership principles. And we were bringing companies into the center, to the leadership center. We were teaching them leadership, transformation, culture, values, communication skills. We were doing ropes courses. Um, so it started with my sobriety. Got blessed with the fact that my sponsor also was leading this leadership center. Then I started training as a facilitator to be able to be one of the main facilitators at the Leadership Center. And I'll just say one more thing there is we did a coaching seminar one time. This is in 2004, 2005, 6, 7. This is quite a while ago. We did a coaching seminar, and that's where I found out what coaching was. I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. I want to coach people to be able to facilitate your lives. And when I said that, my uncle was like, okay, you want to teach others how to facilitate their own lives? Focus on facilitating your own first. And I always joke, George, that I'm 44 today, that was more than 22 years ago, and I'm still trying to figure that out. So you were right about not having all the answers, still trying to figure them out.
For sure.
Yeah,
If you did have
that's
all the
kind of how I
answers.
got into this work.
Okay. So you had basically like kind of at where you were at in life at that point. It had just been kind of party, having fun, not really had plan for life. You had found like a 12-step program to get out of that. Your uncle was kind of the sponsor there, and he also ran a leadership program, which was separate from.
Yeah. A whole center, it was a whole farm in the Sierras of Managua with ropes courses, and it was a whole facility that he had, uh, he developed here in Nicaragua. So I was really blessed. This was God sent.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
cool how you were able to line up with that, and you've taken that into the next 22 years of your life.
Yes. It's been consistent. I've been building on it since 22 years ago, for sure.
Yeah.
And on specifically that question, if you want to facilitate other people's lives, first learn how to facilitate yours. And that's a lot of where my work comes from.
Okay. Like working on the inner work with yourself first, and then being able to translate that to others.
Yeah. I always tell people I'm like St. Thomas the Doubter, that he had to see, I don't know if you know who St. Thomas the Doubter was. After Jesus rose from the dead, he was like, I won't believe it unless I stick my finger in the wound in between the ribs. So I had to test things out before I even share them with other people. And my life is the laboratory. My life is where I test everything out.
That's really cool because you'll see a lot of people, especially in like the 2020s and beyond, like go try to coach on a subject that they never done any work on themselves. And they
Yeah.
launch up a course and start pushing it. But you have 22 years behind you of learning and
I,
experimenting.
I trained as a coach for 10 years. Today, anybody can say, I'm going to coach you on this or that or this.
Yeah.
I formally trained in an accredited coaching program in coaching techniques and whatnot in something called presence-based coaching. But it was 10 years of training in that area. So yeah.
Okay. And what are the areas of coaching that you find most people like struggle with when somebody comes to you? What are the issues or the symptoms that they would have that would say, "Hey, I need some sort of
Okay.
help in this area."
So first off, I decided I was going to coach leaders right off the bat. Uh, when I had to decide where I was going to focus, I decided I would coach leaders because leaders are the ones that have the most impact on people. Like they impact a lot of people. They're leverage. They impact their families. They impact their workers. They impact the community. So I was like, if I'm going to have the biggest impact, I'm going to shoot for the leader. I also had a mentor who told me wherever there's a saying in Spanish is wherever you put your eye, wherever you focus, that's where you're going to put the bullet. So I was like, oh, I'm going to start working from the bottom up. And he's like, no, you better focus on the top from the beginning. So I started focusing on some low-hanging fruit, finding friends of mine that were running businesses or that I knew that would, I mean, one time I reached out to my mom's friend who I knew ran a company. I was like, hey, can I coach you? Um, so I shot for the top, and because I believed that that was where I was going to have the biggest impact. And then I started coaching just any leader or any person that would let me coach them in leadership development. So I coached activists, politicians, I've coached business entrepreneurs, students, women, men. I just a variety of leaders throughout my career. And then recently, it's where I started honing in my niche. And the question was, where can I add the most value? Like, what's my sweet spot as a coach? Where do I feel I can really make a difference? And that the person I'm going to work with is going to get a lot of value from my work. And it's men who are running businesses and are also raising families. And I started working with people in the home services about 3 or 4 years ago. And I found out that I started realizing that in the home services, men, they deal with a lot of pressure. A lot of people depend on them. They have a lot of shit going on. I call it VUCA. When we talk about everything that's going on, I use the term VUCA, which stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. It's basically all the shit that can happen at work and in life. And not only does the home service industry have a lot of VUCA, like a lot of volatility and a lot of complexity and stuff happening, it's also these are very like manly men. Like it isn't the space for mindfulness and breath work and meditation and emotional intelligence. Like there's a big gap in there. There's a big opportunity to fill that and bring these tools and to these leaders. So I found out that that was like the place where I could add the most value. And this year I started focusing more on that niche, specifically helping men. And so who do I serve the best? Men that have a lot of pressure running businesses, they have families, they don't know how to manage the pressure, and they don't want to break uh, uh, under the pressure that they're carrying. And yeah, they might be having emotional outbursts, or some of them are bottling it up. Some of them don't have to be angry. Some of them are really just uh, being pushed over and being permissive and not setting boundaries. Others might be overreacting, like emotional outbursts. They're not showing up the way they want to show up at home, because the cost of running the business is so high that they have nothing left over afterwards. So they might be getting complaints at home. I had one tell me that his children said to somebody else, uh, I don't think dad likes us. Like the kid said that, it's probably because dad's always irritable, dad's always annoyed, he's not always at his best.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, those are the leaders that I serve the best. And those are the problems that they're facing. It's the pressure, the stress, the overwhelm. They have nobody to talk to. They're doing it on their own. They don't have training to manage their emotions. And maybe we can get into some of those problems more specifically, but so far that's who I would serve.
Okay. Yeah, so it's people who are just kind of underneath that high volatility, right?
Yeah.
Volatility, uncertainty. What was the C and the A again
What was the what?
for VUCA? The C and the A.
Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous.
There you
So we all have a dose of VUCA to deal with. We have to be VUCA capable. We have to be able to manage it without breaking, without such a high cost to our mental health, physical health, relationships, family. Yeah.
go. Okay. Yeah, and I mean that can definitely be this industry, right? Highly volatile,
Oh,
right? It
yeah.
depends. If you're in a storm market, it depends on if God decides whether or not to hit you with a hailstorm, for a lot of these
Yes.
guys. So that also with like an uncertainty there, and then just job
Workers,
fundamentals. Yep.
nature. I mean, everything influences. So many unexpected things can happen. And yeah, and you still have to show up at home and be present. And I mean, most of the people I work with, what they want is to be good leaders. I mean, that's the bottom line. I just want to be a good leader in the business. I want to lead my people, and I want to be a good leader at home. want to be a present father, a present husband, and I just want to be seen as a good leader.
What is it that you would like define as like a good leader? Right? Because it's
I think that's a great question, not an easy question to answer, especially for
yeah.
somebody that's been in leadership for 22 years. I think there is no good leader in an absolute way. There's only moments of leadership. So it's very circumstantial, I think. Like, how did you show up in that moment for that issue? I'll give you an example of a moment of leadership that I can celebrate for myself. We went to an MMA fight this weekend. It was one of the first MMA fights a friend of mine put together. They're starting a production company. My son trains in jiu-jitsu and boxing, and we love watching the fights and we love going to boxing matches. So we went, but they did a really terrible job of organizing it. There was too much time between fights, and my son got bored. And then my son was like, I want to get out of here. And that really triggered me. It was like, here I am trying to make this happen for you, trying to make it a good time, have fun, and you want to get out of here. How, I was kind of like, this is ungrateful. I was triggered by it. I was angry. Like, and he's like, I want to go. And I snapped and I was like, all right, you want to go? Let's go. And we started going, and he knew I was mad, and I saw he was nervous, and I knew I was mad. And by the time we got into the car, I realized that I was in this state of anger. And I was having a hard time thinking about how do I get rid of this. I'm really pissed at this kid right now, even though he did nothing wrong, but he like, I'm hurt. So when I got in the car, I realized it and I told him, I turned to him and I was like, you know what, you're right, it was boring. And I don't have any reason to be angry. And he's like, yeah, right. It took a long time, and it completely changed the whole situation. And then we went out to dinner, and we had a great conversation. We had a great time after the fact. So to me, that was a moment of leadership of my part. It was how I self-regulated my anger, caught myself, turned it around, and showed up for my son present. Didn't ruin the night, didn't ruin the experience, and obviously didn't have a cost on our relationship. That would be a moment of leadership. So if you ask me to define leadership, it's based on moments, how you showed up in certain different circumstances. Did you respond effectively? Did you respond in the way that you were called to respond? So a question that we ask in my line of work is in present space coaching, which everything is based on being present, is what's required of me in this situation? And how do I respond to that? And good leadership is being able to discern that. It's being able to actually be aware this is what this situation is calling me for, calling me like that. This is what's required of me, and how do I actually respond like that? But then you got to have the tools of self awareness, self regulation. I mean, there's a ton of training, not a ton, but there's some training behind my ability to have turned that around. In the past, I would have ruined it. It would have been a moment of poor leadership.
Yeah, so it's having that self-awareness, right? Being able to bring attention to, hey, I'm angry right now. Why is that? How do I get out of it? As opposed to what I hear a lot of people say, which is just like force it down, you know,
Force it down,
or
or
not have the
worse,
emotion.
explode.
Yeah.
I don't have my tendency. So we all have our tendency. We can either force it down. There's clients, there's people and men who force it down and bottle it up, and then there's us like me that explode. We are violent. We are aggressive. We are offensive. And I'm not the kind that bottles it up. I'm the kind that would have been a little more reactive and a little, would have been kind of scary for my son to see me in that situation. And that's the kind of thing that I've been working myself. But it's about being connected to the situation and responding in the best way that we discern. Like, how do we respond? That to me is leadership. So there is no absolute, how do you become a good leader? No, that doesn't exist. It's how do you respond moment to moment in an effective way and show up as a good leader in those situations?
Okay. Yeah, so in
Yeah,
the moment to moment, I mean, obviously we're gonna make mistakes. We're humans. Right? I don't think any
yeah,
leader is perfect and free of sin or mistake or whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah. And obviously having a good vision of what you want to create, and intention, that's what's guiding you. To me, it's being committed to something greater than yourself, and that's actually guiding you. So I have to have the prior commitment of showing up as a good father so that I can even hold myself to that standard and know that I'm falling short. So whether it's in the business or at home, I have to be committed to something, to a higher standard of myself that I can align with in those moments when they show up.
And is there like a specific way that you make that commitment or
Well, we do work. I definitely, it's something we have to do explicitly. Either, you know, we can do it on our own, but it's probably not the most effective way. But one question that I'm going to ask people is, who do you want to be? What do you aspire to as a leader? So we're always going to talk about how are you showing up currently? Are you irritable? Are you using negative coping mechanisms? Are you falling short? Or, how are you showing up right now? Is that what you aspire to? Or is there, are you falling short? And what do you aspire to? And I had one person tell me today, I just want to be the leader I believe my mom needed and didn't have. So, okay, so let's dig into that. What does that mean? And then we can start talking about, the kind of leader you want to be, the kind of person you want to be, kind of father, the kind of, leader at the business, and have a clear idea of who do you want to be, despite the chaos, despite the VUCA, despite life throwing shit at you, who do you choose to be? And then, okay, what's keeping you from doing that? What's keeping you from, and I can jump into a few things that keep us from actually becoming the men that we aspire to be or showing up as the men that we aspire to be. You want me to get into that?
I'd love to hear that. I'm sure the audience would too. Yeah. I got some
Okay.
other questions, but I got them written down here. That's why I have my notepad. But yeah, dive
Okay.
into that. I'd love to hear
So,
that.
so one is doing it all alone. It's like figuring out on our own. It's like I have these very complex issues. So when I meet with clients, it's not just about, how to organize the business. I mean, I've met with clients that are navigating situations with their spouses. I can say that I've helped them go through crisis in their marriage and get to a better place, but also with partnerships, like partners in the business. And some of these partnerships have complexities, have different layers.
Yeah.
Like just today, I was talking to somebody who had partnered up with his brother, and now they're not on the same page and they're trying to navigate, and there's a lot of issues there. So navigating that on your own just makes it a lot harder. You got your ego that's got to be checked, got your emotions got to be checked. So having somebody to help you navigate those things strategically, like this isn't a one-off event. This is a strategic process that you have to navigate. Like, where do you want to get to in this partnership or in this relationship? And I'm open to you telling me I actually want to get a divorce. I know not everybody wants to hear that, or I actually want to separate from my business partner. So some relationships get rekindled, and some of them, they you get closure and they get done with. But we do it in the most without having a high cost. And it's up to the leader to navigate that and do that with intention, and I'm there to support them. So not trying to figure all this out on our own. Life is complex. It's good to have mentors, uh, people who have wisdom, have tools, have frameworks, whatever it is. The second obstacle to being the leader we want to be or the man we want to be is no training in emotional regulation. Like nobody taught us how to manage our emotions, how to self-regulate, what that even looks like. Like uh, emotional intelligence, using our breathing, using our attention, using our body. I call it doing internal alchemy. So it's an internal transformation from whatever state you're in, angry, like with my son. I changed that state because I've trained in how to regulate myself. And nobody's taught us that. So how do we manage anxiety? How do we manage stress? How do we manage anger? How do we manage our emotions, our state? And how do we build resilience? Because if we don't, stress can either wear us down or it can build us up. And if we have the right perspective, it'll change everything. So when we feel stress and things are a threat, like everything out there is a threat, the VUCA, the inconvenience, all the shit going on is a threat, that's going to tear you down. That's going to create cortisol. It's going to create stress. It's going to wear you down. It's going to burn you out. But if you change the perspective and you see it as a challenge, as an offer, so one of the first things that I invite people is to consider the adversity of life an offer. I know that's very philosophical. It's pretty stoic. So it's a stoic perspective on adversity. But you change the perspective and your body actually responds differently. Like your blood vessels don't constrain when you see it as a challenge. Like, oh my God, this is a challenge today. You don't produce cortisol, you produce adrenaline. So it actually builds resilience. It actually makes you stronger just by changing your perspective on it. So nobody's ever taught us how to do that, how to manage these tools and techniques. That's why you see on my Facebook, I put a lot of people in ice baths. It's not about doing ice baths, it's about learning these techniques and implementing them in an ice bath or other practices. So that's the second one, not having these tools, these techniques, and I've never been taught that. So doing it alone, not having these techniques. The third one is chasing a definition of success that's not aligned with your purpose, your values, and if we go deeper, your soul. So you're not chasing a definition of success that's true to you. So it doesn't matter how much you accomplish on paper, how many leads, how many sales, how much money, you're always going to feel like this empty, like, what am I doing it for? So nobody taught us to include fulfillment in that. And fulfillment is scary because fulfillment might mean working less, selling less, like might be a what do you call it, a sacrifice for, you know, maybe I shouldn't be working all the time so hard, and I can take a break, and I can delegate, and I can let go of things, and I can relax. I realize that worrying is going to control everything. But it's having this definition of success that's aligned with the leader, with the business person. So I have a client that he's like, dude, I have money. I have it all. I have the roof, I have the toys, I have everything. And what I don't have is contentment. I don't know how to be content. I'm not happy. And so we dig into that, like what's behind that. But it's having a definition of success and fulfillment. And that's aligned and true and authentic to my clients. And that takes courage because we're driven by comparison, keeping up with the Joneses. What is everybody else doing? You know, what's the American dream? You guys have the American dream pushing on you. Like, this is it. This is what you're after. So it's really exploring that. And the fourth one is what I would call your shadow. It's like the invisible chains of your past. How were you brought up? Like, I had a client that would say he had a, let's say his name was Joe. He would be like, the fuck you, Joe, like the fuck you version. That's how he learned. Like in his house, is everything was aggressive and violent, and whoever was more fuck you would win. And I'm like, yeah, bro, but that doesn't work when you have daughters. You can't go to the fuck you, Joe,
Yeah.
against your daughters and your wife and your workers, and like, no wonder they're quitting on you, man. And it's all like your shadow can make you that way, or it can make you a very nice guy. You know, you're too nice, you're permissive, and people are walking over you. There's no boundaries, and you're saying yes to everybody. And a big thing I found is you're taking care of everybody else except yourself. It's like you carrying this responsibility, but you're not taking care of yourself. So we have a shadow, and a shadow isn't about, it's just revealing that part of us that's actually driving us, but we're not aware of. I mean, it's there. It's got its hand on the steering wheel. It's pushing you to do things like reach goals and set goals and go for the next thing and keep on pushing and building, but you don't know exactly why, what's driving you there. And so I don't want to say, you know, that we don't do therapy here, but we start revealing things that are driving us, that we need to be aware of, and how we were raised and our beliefs and our patterns and what was going on in our own house, and so on and so forth. So those are the four obstacles that keep us from being that leader that we aspire to be, being that father, that husband that we aspire to be. And those are part of the process that I work with my clients in.
So it's basically one, first understanding and defining that vision. Two, understanding how to shape your perspective so that stress doesn't become a threat but a challenge. And then that has like a uh like psychochemical reaction within the brain to like create
It does.
cortisol versus, that's really cool. Okay.
But also having the techniques, like how to breathe.
Yeah.
What are the principles of breathing? Like, how do you down regulate? Like, whenever somebody's angry, basic thing. They say, hey, man, breathe. Yeah, but breathing is just bringing air in and out. How you breathe is going to make the difference. So I wouldn't tell somebody who's angry, hey, man, breathe. I would tell them something like, hey, man, exhale long and natural. Like take deep inhales and exhale long and extended and natural. Because I know that's what's going to bring the system down automatically. You don't even have to think about it. You take deep inhales and long and extended exhales, it's going to bring that person down. But if you just tell them breathe and they're taking deep breaths into the chest,
It's gonna pump them up.
that's that's revving them up, man. That's how a child breathes when they're bad. So you learn these principles, these governing principles of breath. I studied mindfulness, breath work, embodiment, and working through the body. So there's some real science and real tactical and practical practices in this that really like they start using right off the bat, and they become anchors for everything else. Like awareness of your breath just brings you into the moment and makes you more present with whatever's going on around you. Like there's a collateral damage of starting to focus on your breath, which is positive.
Yeah.
There's a positive collateral result of it.
I feel
Yeah,
like in my day to day, I've done some breath work too. Like it's when you're not focusing on the breath, you're kind of like walking with a fog. But when you're like there's a lot more clarity, you can be in the moment. There's all the things that are causing anxiety into the future or like depression into the past. Like you kind of like come here and you
that's
are able to get out of that.
yeah. So focusing on your breath isn't going to solve the problems. I know you have a lot of issues. You're not going to solve it, but it's
Yeah.
but it's like being in a river and the current is taking you downriver. And you have nothing to grab onto, and it's really like white water, like, and then suddenly you find a rope or a rock or a log and you grab on. That's your breath. Like once you like the river's still going, but now you're anchored. And now you can think and you can figure it out and you can at least take a moment and stop panicking. So it's really powerful stuff.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then I guess all this, like the first thing it sounds like is kind of getting that vision down, right? And understanding what type of life do I want to live? Who do I want to show up as a man?
Yes. Yeah. The whole coaching process is geared towards what's your commitment as a leader? Like, what are you committed to? And that's the first thing commitment drives everything. The central, I guess something I forgot to mention at the beginning is when you asked about leadership, is the central act of leadership is being committed to something. It's declaring a commitment. It's like without a commitment, there's no leadership. And we got to be clear about what that commitment is. And it's got to include success and fulfillment. So as you're building these businesses and these companies, if you just focus on the external numbers and revenue and all that, you're going to neglect the second part, which is the internal work. I just read somewhere entrepreneurship is self development disguised as business. And I believe that. I know that. I don't believe that. I know that. I know that your business isn't just a place where you're trying to succeed externally and on paper. It's also where you're supposed to be becoming the man you want to be. That's what it's for. That's what that's a vehicle for. So when you're not aware of that and you don't set the intention, your business starts destroying you. Your business starts turning you into a person that you don't want to be, and nobody wants not nobody, but your family might not want to be around. It's like you're building this business and it's actually doing the opposite of what it's meant to be doing. So we want to bring that intentionally. And I believe this could be done in roofing, HVAC. Well, I mean, it can be done in any business. And you can bring soul to it. You can bring intention. You can bring self development into it. And that's where it's going to be sustainable. That's where it's going to be like you're really going to start seeing the growth, the sustainability without paying the cost. Success doesn't have to be so costly.
That's really cool. And I guess like a
Yeah,
lot of us, even like me, right? I didn't come from like being a trust fund kid. Like you start business as one, it's something potentially you like to do, like me with advertising, but two, it's also a survival mechanism. But I guess
yeah.
like as you grow in scale, you get lost in that, right? And the fulfillment side of it gets subservient to the what are the metrics, like the KPIs.
Yeah, and you neglect it and you put it into the future. In the future, when I make this business work, then I'll focus on being content. and being happy and being balanced and whatever. But then it's too late, man. Like you already paid the price. Here's something I didn't share with you at the beginning also is that my father, we migrated. So my grandma's from St. Charles, Missouri, right? I'm in Nicaragua. That's why my English is so perfect. I got American blood. My grandma's from St. Charles, Missouri, Missouri of all places. And during the 80s, we had to migrate. We had to, because of political reasons here in Nicaragua. I was telling somebody the other day, when in Nicaragua, my dad was a white collar person. In the US, my dad was a blue collar person. And so my dad worked in roofing. He was a roofer and he was trying to get his business off the ground in roofing. He was doing the work for somebody else and then he was trying to do his own business. And I saw like how heavy it was for him. And it's sort of this, if he had these tools, if he had this knowledge, this awareness, things would have been a lot better for all of us.
What were the main things that you saw, if you're open to sharing, right? I know it's a personal background story, but like, what were the main things you saw that he didn't have that you think would have helped him going into his like journey of building a roofing business?
He didn't have emotional intelligence. My father lacked a lot of emotional intelligence. Like he would lose jobs or he would lose partnerships or he would lose because his ego and because he wouldn't, he couldn't respond effectively. And that was throughout his whole life. He was a very smart man, very, very smart man, very good at what he did, amazingly good. But then somebody would say something and trigger him, and he was like, fuck this, I'm out.
Off the handle.
Yeah, he would go off the handle. He would be aggressive. He was violent. He had a lot of pressure and did not know. Today, I realized it was a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Raising a family in the circumstances he was in. Dude, now it's obvious. I have a 18-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old son, and we have to navigate all the circumstances of life. Now I have a little more empathy for him.
Yeah. It's funny how
And
that
I think if
happens,
you had,
right? As you grow.
yeah, you start realizing,
Like I definitely understand
yeah,
about
no,
my
no
father.
wonder he was like that. Yeah.
Yep. No, that's completely fair.
So
Yeah.
if he hadn't tried to do it alone and he had been open to self work and doing the internal work and really working on himself, because he never was. So, I mean, again, my mentor, my sponsor, the guy who owned the leadership center was his brother. And my dad didn't get along with him. Obviously, they were not on the same page. And so he would see me like be mentored by him more, and there was just more resentment, more stuff.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting uh, experience. Yeah.
I think that's something that everybody struggles with, and that's something in this industry I've talked to others, like kind of behind the scenes, is like definitely the emotional intelligence can be lacking, right? We're out here, we're hardworking, we're kicking ass, and sometimes that takes a backseat to the detriment of like our business, our family, ourselves. How can I, as a person, right, tell whether or not I need to? Obviously, we always need to work on our emotional intelligence, but where can I tell if I'm lacking in my emotional intelligence? What are the symptoms I would see in my life to be able to say, hey, I need to work on this?
Well, you're probably, it depends. One, if you're having emotional outbursts, obviously your family is like if there's arguments and there's fighting and there's stress and there's irritability and you're not present and like the first signs of having to do something comes from your family, like um, calling you out, like you're too stressed, you gotta take a break, you gotta figure it out, you gotta for the sake of us. So they're calling you out on it. That's probably gonna be it's funny, but recently most of the intake forms since I started working on this niche specifically, because before I was just training leaders to lead in a VUCA world. That was the general offer. Leaders in a VUCA world. And I was like, men leading businesses, raising families who don't want to break under the pressure. So there's now that I'm interviewing them and they fit this profile, one question I ask is, how are we going to measure success? And a lot of them say, I don't know, but my wife is probably going to be a huge indicator. Like more than once, somebody would tell me, my wife, if she says that I'm getting better, then we're probably being successful in this work. And again, I always tell my clients, you're not my client. Forget about it. You're not my client. You can tell your wife is my client. Your kids are my client. Your workers are those are my clients. So the ones who have to see the change of our work is probably the people around. That's like the best indicator. So people are quitting on you, like you think others are the problem, like you're having turnover because you called somebody out and so they quit on you. I had one guy that we really turned that around, but he has some great people quitting because he would be a dick all of a sudden. Like you can't tell them that. You can't tell. And here's the amazing part, George, is that this guy, when he was in his best self, when he was in his best state, he was awesome at knowing what to do, how to handle the situation. In retrospective, he was the wisest leader ever. Like after the fact, he's like, I know I should have listened. I know I should have done this, 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 this. I'm like, that means what's what you're capable of already. Like you're already capable of being a great leader. You just gotta stay grounded, not get triggered. We have a concept called above the line, below the line.
Mhm.
It's not something I came up with, but it's a very easy way of telling, am I above the line? Open, curious. My prefrontal cortex is engaged. I can think straight. I can collaborate. Or am I below the line? Below the line is triggered, angry, like where I was when my kid told me he wanted to leave the MMA fight. Below the line, we think everything's a fight, it's right or wrong, justifying, we feel threatened, we feel we got to control, we feel we got to force. So he was always leading below the line. That was his tendency. And he learned to stay above the line. And when he was above the line, he's just a great leader. He's respected and people follow him. Problem is when he wasn't, people would quit. His best people. Like he was like, man, I love that person. He was so good on my team. And she quit. But the opposite can also be true when they're permissive and they're caring a lot because they're not making decisions and they're just listening to everybody else and they're not confident in themselves. That probably will generate a lot of stress also. And yeah, it's interesting. So it's not, it's not one or it's you got to figure out where you're going below the line. So people are quitting, fights with the family, the kids are saying dad doesn't like us. Eh, your health, your health, right? Talked to somebody today. A wife reached out to me and she was like, dude, my he's having these ticks in his muscles and headaches and your mental health, you're not sleeping at night, overthinking and so your body can also be an indicator that you need to do some work and that you're paying the price for it. And where else? The numbers look good, everything looks like you're blessed, and you don't feel that way. You feel like you can't stop worrying, can't let go of control. You got to still be on top of everything, and you can't stop. That like you don't know how to calm down, how to relax, how to let go, how to recalibrate, how to reset yourself, how to calm down. And that would be another indicator of maybe having to work with somebody. Um, yeah.
Actually, I realized we're at 5:45 already, so we got about 15 minutes left, but I did have one more question that relates to your last comment there, which is this is actually one I deal with personally too, is I just told you I work at 7 a.m. to like 11 p.m. most days. Um, that's just because I struggle to turn off. So many contractors too struggle to turn off their business mind. So what strategies can they use to kind of set those healthy boundaries and protect that family time and that personal energy? And I guess that's the first part of the question. And then the second part is why do you think that's critical for leadership? And I think that also relates back to what you were just saying. But
Well, one tool we get into very quickly is the management of our attention. It's like, how do we, our minds are very untamed. Like the monkey mind, the scattered mind, the working mind, the mind that can't turn off. I can't turn off my mind, especially at night when you're going to bed or when you're with the family and your mind's just racing. It's because you're not trained, man. And it all requires is that you understand how the principles of your attention work and that you can actually turn off your mind in any moment with a little bit of training. And one technique we use is focusing on the breath. There's a principle. And Andrew Huberman has, I don't know if you know who Andrew Huberman is, but a lot of my work is based on science. I mean, I dig into all his podcasts, lectures, reading, not just Huberman, just everything around attention management, breath management. But the basic principle is your if your mind is not where you want it to be, focus on the breath. Bring your attention to your breath. And not everybody knows how to do that. So we take time to learn how to do that. And it doesn't require a lot of time. It just requires that you understand how that actually feels, works, like what that actually looks like. So we do a session where we teach you how to bring your attention to your breath repeatedly. And every time you bring your attention to your breath, you are creating the gap. They use the term mind the gap, and you learn that this is a place of relief. It's like I can bring my attention to my breath, and it's a muscle. It can be trained, so you can become better at it, and your mind starts calming down. So I saw one person on Facebook, right? That he couldn't get to bed because his mind was racing, and there was a lot of work, and there was a lot of stuff. And people were giving him advice, like, dude, just focus on what you can control and let go of the rest. Like, you really should just organize everything. All the suggestions were external, if you know what I mean, like schedule better or control better or just delegate or whatever. To me, that was all like, dude, that's bullshit. This is like not good. His response was easier said than done. All right. And I was like, yes, learn to bring your attention back, and your breath is an anchor. The breath isn't that the breath is magical. The breath is the anchor. It's just learn to bring your attention back, harness your attention, learn to harness your attention and what that feels like and looks like. And with time, your mind will start calming down, and it will shut off. Your mind's not going to shut off permanently, but it'll shut off per moments. Now imagine a mind that never stops for days and months and years. All of a sudden learns how to stop for 1 second. Dude, that's a relief. It's like a huge burden off your shoulders because when we're thinking, we're burning. We're burning energy. We're burning calorie. That's agitation. That's taking a toll, man. And after months and years of not turning off your mind, that's the engine revving constantly. If you can stop it from revving for one moment, it's a moment of relief. And then you just start accumulating those over time. And at least once a day, that's way more than anything. Like, it's a big difference. It's an exponential difference.
Yeah. It's kind of like with
Yeah.
the computer, right? As you have it on longer and longer, more the RAM gets used up, and then it's
Yeah.
just overloading. You hear your fan going, but
Same thing. All
then
the
you
all
just
the
power it off.
tabs,
Yep.
the tabs, it's the same thing. It's the tabs. It's like I was working with engineers this week, and then I know we got to jump into something else.
Yeah.
And they run systems, and they learn how all the gauges work and the pressure. It's a cement company. I was just with a cement company, big cement company, one of the biggest cement companies in the region. It's Cemex. They're Mexican. I don't know if they're in the U.S., but they were telling me how they manage all the system, all the gauges, and how the pressure and how do they release the pressure and the temperatures and this and this and that. I was like, we're going to learn the same thing, except that you're the system. You're going to learn how the pressure builds up and what the alarms are, how to bring the pressure down and how to regulate it, where the knobs are and where the leverage is and how to let it out so that the system can run optimally. Obviously, you're always going to have heat going up or temperatures going down. I mean, it's not going to be stable, but you're going to keep it in the permitted zone where it doesn't blow up and there's no chaos. So it's the same thing, except that you're the system, and I've been studying it for 20 years plus.
That's a
Yeah,
cool analogy.
yeah, it is. I came up with that right now. I feel really smart.
There you go. Well, now you can clip it. I'll send you the recording afterwards.
There you go, bro.
But awesome, Jose. Well, I appreciate you coming on today, man. I'm gonna leave some time open for Q&A here at the end, and then we can wrap things up. But overall, I have like a million more questions I could ask you, but we'll be here a little too late, probably around like 10 p.m. So I'll stop myself, control myself. But with that being said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll leave that open for 2 to 3 minutes, and then I just want to leave some room for kind of closing thoughts here too. So, alrighty.
What is it about cold that helps? Clara Lopez. Somebody in the chat here. What is it about cold that helps? You want me to jump into that?
Yeah.
So when we talk about cold therapy and using ice baths, it's really going to depend on what your intention is. So sports players use it for disinflammation and recovery. So they get into the cold so they can recover their muscles, and the cold has impacts on your immune system. That's not why I do it. It's not why I share the practice. So there's a basic premise that doing hard things isn't going to make you more resilient. Doing hard things isn't going to make you stronger. It's learning how to manage yourself in hard situations and then exposing yourself. So there's a book called Do Hard Things. It talks about this. So we use the cold as a place to learn to self-regulate. When you get into an ice bath, it hijacks your attention, your breath, and your body, which are core tools that I teach people. These are the three reins of your mind and your state. The reins of your mind and your state are your breath, your attention, and your body. And when you jump into freezing water, they all get hijacked. Like your attention goes like, I'm gonna fucking die. Your breath goes out of control and your body gets tensed up. So we use the cold as a place where you're going to practice self-regulation. So that's basically our intention with doing ice baths is learn how to breathe, learn how to focus, learn how to relax. Okay, now let's go to the cold and see you do it in a difficult situation. And that's just a metaphor for other difficult situations. Um, so yeah, and then it has some health benefits, but that's not exactly why I'm inviting my clients to do it. It's a place to practice being Zen. There's a man named Alan Watts. I think you asked me, George, about Alan Watts the other day.
Yeah.
He's like Zen is not fighting the cold, it's being one with the cold. It's embracing the cold. It's being with the cold. And the cold is just difficulty, adversity. So we practice that and then we practice. So Wim Hof has a whole nother method. Wim Hof is one that made it popular mainstream. So there is the Wim Hof method. And methods, there are thousands, there are millions of methods. Principles, there are few. So Wim Hof has a method that includes cold therapy. But Wim Hof method isn't cold therapy. Cold therapy is, I mean, it's millennial. Different civilizations have used it, but uh, Wim Hof put it into his own method. And he's one of the ones that we attribute making it mainstream. I was watching a Seinfeld episode the other day, which is 1990s, and they were talking about the polar plunge. They were talking about somebody was doing polar plunge, like swimming in cold water. And I told my wife, see, Wim Hof didn't make it up. These guys are talking about it 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So yes, Wim Hof method includes cold therapy, but it's not Wim Hof method that I teach. I don't teach Wim Hof method. I am not a Wim Hof method instructor. I've been inspired by some of his work, and then we incorporated the practice with uh, with another intention. Yeah.
Any other? Thank you. Cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
It's a great place to learn how to self-regulate, man.
I don't think I've ever done a cold plunge.
Mhm.
I've no, the closest I've done is when I did swim team when I was 12, year-round travel. They didn't have the dome up, so we had a pool that wasn't heated. That was around like 20 degrees, and outside was 20 degrees too, and we would swim in that for an hour. That was brutal. Um,
It is brutal.
so
Now, if
anyway,
you're not trained, if you don't know how to self-regulate and you do cold exposure, it can produce panic attacks and it can produce more anxiety. It can actually do the opposite of
yeah, I
what
was
we
just
want.
pissed off at that point.
Yeah, yeah. So you really have to set the intention and know what you're
Yeah.
going to do while you're in there.
Well, 13-year-old George just wanted to be a better swimmer, not a freezing man. But but yeah, man. Well, I appreciate
Yeah,
you so much for coming on, Jose. We're coming up
yeah.
to, we got about 2 minutes left here, so I want to leave a section open for you real quick and then do our typical wrap up. But I did want to ask if people do want to get in touch with you, learn more about kind of regulating their emotions, becoming a better leader, and just showing up better for them, their family, and their team. What's the best way for them to get in touch?
Facebook would be ideal. I think that's the easiest place to connect on Facebook.
Okay.
Um, my Instagram, I run it in Spanish. So I actually have two audiences that I'm attending. Facebook is in English, US audience, home service business owners, audience.
Yeah.
eh, Ben, if you don't mind the Spanish and you use the AI stuff to translate, you can
Translate.
follow me. There's a lot going on Instagram, a lot of fun stuff. I do a lot of stuff. Nicaragua is a beautiful playground, and I'm a surfer,
Oh, cool.
a trail runner, and climbing volcanoes, and I do a retreat for my one-on-one clients once a year or once every 2 years when I get enough of them to buy in. We bring them to Nicaragua and we do a retreat here, an immersive retreat here in Nicaragua. So that's a beautiful experience.
I will say for Instagram, mi español es mierda. So I'll stay
Oh,
on
that's good
all
enough.
Facebook. But I just grabbed your link and put it in the chat for everybody as well. Um,
Thanks.
and then, guys, if you're not already a part of the Facebook group, you'll get the recordings of all the trainings we do there first. I just dropped that in the chat as well. So make sure to go join. It's facebook.com/groups/VUA Roofing Pros. And yeah, I'll see y'all in there. Jose, thank you so much for coming on. Any final comments you want to make before we wrap it here today? We got 25 seconds.
Just thank you, George, and hopefully they find value in what I shared today.
For sure. Thank you so much for coming on, Jose. I appreciate you.